Hi and welcome to this pre-recorded version of the OpenUp Masterclass. Enjoy!
I'm Amos Papens, lifestyle medic, and what I'm gonna tell you today is, first the question, who's ready for a party? Because, just kidding. We are going to do a masterclass with an honest conversation on alcohol. All what you need to know about alcohol. So in this masterclass, we will learn what alcohol is, and it's about the chemical structure and the characteristics. Also, why do we drink alcohol? So not only the psychological effects, but also the social aspects will be covered as well. How does alcohol affect the body? So the process, the internal processing of alcohol, and also the short-term effects of alcohol. And we also address the long-term effects, the impact and health implications, and also how you can deal with, alcohol in itself, but also how to limit your alcohol use. So let's go. What is alcohol? Alcohol is also known as ethanol. Ethanol is the sciencey name for alcohol. So ethanol is a small, simple molecule. It has a alcohol part, so on the right side of the image, and a fatty acid chain-like part on the left side. And this, alcohol group, it's the hydroxyl group, is a hydrophilic, water-soluble part of the alcohol. And you also have the fatty acid chain, which is lipophilic, so fat-soluble. And this also explains why alcohol is so quickly distributed throughout the whole body and has effects in nearly every cell, kind of near immediately. So that covered, we want to talk about why we actually drink alcohol, because on the short term, we have the brain. Our brain really likes alcohol. It releases dopamine and endorphins, and this creates a feeling of pleasure and relaxation and euphoria, kind of like this cuddling feeling. You want to social bond. And also another effect is the reward system, because dopamine is a reward neurochemical substance that kind of enhances mood and also reduces stress. But also there are multiple neurotransmitters that actually are like a cause of this more reduced stress and also the enhanced mood. But on a psychological and social side of things, of alcohol, is we feel more confident and we feel more sociable, and therefore we socially bond with other people more quickly. But that's not the only case, because it's not only that we feel more relaxed and therefore less anxious to kind of meet other people, but it has also our cultural roots. It's a learned behavior. It's part of culture, nearly spread out across the globe. Not every culture it's that active as a way of celebrating things, but at least the majority of cultures address alcohol as something with festivities. And this is also why we most of the time drink alcohol during celebrations. So this is more the social side of things. But let's be honest, because, I guess everyone's here because they want to learn something about alcohol, and they might drink alcohol themselves. So I'm very curious, why or on what occasion do you drink alcohol? Most people will slowly put their answers into the chat, but I can predict this kind of answers, because the most people now will share with me that they are socially drinking. And that's not a problem at all. It's actually, I think a good thing to at least drink socially, because if you drink all by yourself, you might look into that as a, challenge for yourself, because it might be a drinking problem. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm here today to talk about the honest conversation, an honest introduction of what alcohol does to our body. So we need to go into the processing part, like the metabolism and the absorption of alcohol. Alcohol is consumed, so ingestion, and then it continues from the mouth into your stomach, where it is not broken down, but it will kind of go into our bowel and gut, and therefore it will be absorbed into the bloodstream. And then it will pass the liver, and continuously with the bloodstream, it will go to every cell in our human body. What happens is that in the stomach itself, something curious happens, because of the properties of alcohol, it's soluble in fat and in water. So it will already cross the stomach into the bloodstream and therefore bypassing the liver and kind of give this immediate effects on our body. So, and most of the time we recognize this as feeling more comfortable and less stressed. But our liver is like this cleaning machine. It's the cleaning machine of our body. It does everything to get rid of alcohol. And this is what actually gives us our hangover, because the liver metabolizes alcohol in 2 steps, and the 2 main enzymes are alcohol dehydrogenase, ADH, and aldehyde dehydrogenase. Sorry about my bad English, but I'm trying my best here. But ALDH. So what happens is ADH is converting alcohol into acetaldehyde, which is a toxic intermediate. And this toxic intermediate causes the most effects of this hangover feeling. Also alcohol in itself, but this substance is kind of the gnarly bit. Also, this is the first step. So if you drink too much alcohol in the first place, so too much in too little time, your liver is able to process alcohol with the first step. So it will turn alcohol into the ADH. But the second step to turn this ADH into acetic acid is slow. So acetaldehyde is turned into acetic acid, sorry about my bad English again, is slow. So therefore you build up this toxic intermediate. So acetic acid is transformed into carbon dioxide and water again, and you expel this or by going to the toilet, peeing, or you expel this by breathing carbon dioxide out. So this is basically how we metabolize alcohol. And now we already understand that alcohol in itself is not per se the only reason why we have a hangover and the only reason why it's toxic to our body. Alcohol in itself is toxic, but the toxic intermediate is way more toxic for your body. Now, this has effects on multiple systems, basically every cell in our body. But I want to highlight a few. So let's talk about the cardiovascular system, so the blood vessels and the heart itself. Initially, the alcohol will dilate your blood vessels. This is called vasodilation, and which basically means your blood vessels widen. This gives you this warm feeling and also this blush on your cheeks, which is why people have on pictures when they have drank some alcohol, they have a tendency to have a blush on their face. In the long term, this can have negative effects, and this is damage to the cardiovascular system. So atherosclerosis, for example, which is the hardening of the vessels. But also the heart health in itself is compromised. Now going into the gastrointestinal tract, so the gut and the stomach, basically if you ingest alcohol, we use alcohol to clean surfaces. Now, cleaning surfaces and our body don't go hand in hand very well. So what happens? You clean your GI tract, your gastrointestinal tract. So it has negative effects on the microbiome, the bacteria living in your gut. So the good ones are actually cleaned away, so giving stomach problems and bowel problems. Also, it creates a more acidic environment in the stomach. So it gives the potential of acid reflux, and also this acidity potentiates stomach ulcers. So basically like a flesh wound in the stomach. And this is eventually on the long term definitely not a good cause or not a good effect. But that's not why you're here probably, because we like alcohol for other reasons, not because we have a tummy ache. No, we are here because we like to drink alcohol because of its brain effects, the central nervous system. And it has all to do with the neurochemistry. And it's just simplified, but let's cover the 4 neurotransmitters that are involved in this process. GABA, which is like a relaxation neurotransmitter, heightens, it goes up. Glutamate, which is the activating neurotransmitter, goes down. And dopamine and endorphin, which are like the reward neurotransmitters, goes up, but also makes you move. It's from the Latin word motivere, which basically translates into to move into the world, like getting into action. So these changes have a particular effect on the brain. And the main effects are a reduction in amygdala activity. And amygdala is a brain region which is like the anxiety or fear center of our brain. Well, GABA is more chill, so it reduces the activity. But glutamate is actually the most responsible of this effect. It chills down the amygdala, so feeling, less anxious. But this effect is also for the prefrontal cortex, because if you are more chill and less active, the prefrontal cortex chills down. It cools down a bit, and what happens is you're not able to control your emotions as well, because the prefrontal cortex inhibits emotions, but also planned behavior and reasonable thinking. So yeah, that's why if you drink alcohol, you have lowered inhibitions, altered behavior for the good and the bad, so also anger and also sadness. But if we go to, our risk-taking behaviors, if you're drinking alcohol, you're less aware of risks because you're less anxious. So taking more risk is also often a problem while drinking too much. And other addictions, such as gambling addictions, are also a kind of connected to drinking more or less. Multiple people that are alcohol addicted also have sometimes a gambling problem. Positive effects, which is actually the reason why we do it often socially, is because we feel more pleasure, we feel relaxed, and we feel less anxious, so we connect better with other people. We socially bond way quicker with a glass of alcohol. And this is probably why it's part of our culture, and it's spread across the globe. But yeah, the long-term effects are also there. And yeah, I don't want to make it sound, kind of harsh for you guys, but addiction is a real problem. It's a real challenge. Neurochemical basis of addiction is the dopamine pathways. These dopamine pathways alter and therefore create a reward loop and making you drink more often over time. It's not per se that if you drink alcohol that you become addicted, but it is a plausible option to get addicted for sure. The chronic health benefits, not benefits, but the effects are the brain, because the brain is, getting in touch with alcohol and the toxic intermediate, which is kind of making the cell processes going wrong and therefore limiting cognitive function. So cognitive decline and memory impairment. And you might know this as the disease Korsakoff. And Korsakoff is basically a problem because brain cells lack the nutritional components to function well. And those are mainly vitamin B constitutions, like little elements. Liver also has to process all this kind of toxic waste, alcohol and the toxic intermediate. So it has a hard time processing this, and this can cause fatty liver disease, hepatitis, which is like a inflammation of the liver, and cirrhosis. And other organs, basically every little cell is interacting with alcohol and its toxic intermediate, can have a negative effect. So basically every type of cancer, you are more prone to every type of cancer, more risk. But also the cardiovascular disease, as I mentioned earlier. And for those geeky persons out there, you think like, hey, maybe I've got a good counter argument. I am here and I'm kind of this French paradox. I know about drinking wine, red wine specifically, makes heart disease less common. But actually, this is a paradox, so it's not true at all. The substance resveratrol, which is part of red wine, is limited in its effect of drinking alcohol and heart disease. So which basically means you need to drink about roughly 500 liters of red wine to actually have a potential benefit. But that's crazy high amount of alcohol to drink. So there's no to limited role of resveratrol in heart health. So yeah, those French people actually gain more health, or Italian people more health of their whole lifestyle, like the whole integral lifestyle of themselves. So drinking, eating, exercising, and social bonding. So overall, the risk of alcohol consumption far outweigh the potential benefits. And this is also, sorry about this one, is also stated by the World Health Organization. So the World Health Organization states this perfect sentence, which basically translates into, don't drink because none amount of alcohol is worth dealing with the damage it does. Well, that's a bit pessimistic, isn't it? So, it is a little bit pessimistic, but it's also the reality. But we do drink because it's socially fun. But you might now, after this little talk, think like, hey, but I want to manage my alcohol use better. Now, there are two main strategies here. If not, well, for you being addicted already or a regular consumption of alcohol drinker, like you drink too much alcohol, in that case, I really want to give the advice to go to a medical professional and therefore talking with a medical professional. But for those who are regularly drinking but have a grasp of their alcohol use and you want to drink less, you can do two strategies. You can benefit from complete abstinence, so basically not drinking alcohol at all. And it creates clear boundaries for yourself and others, and it's really effective of creating like a dependency on yourself instead of others to drink. But also it's an all or nothing mindset, which is good. It's black and white, but at the same time it's really tough because social engagement and emotional adjustment is really a challenge because you are probably drinking alcohol with friends or family. And therefore, it's also, you kind of limit yourself from drinking with other people, and then eventually you might binge drink. And that is a way, way worse thing to do than actually drink fewer drinks multiple times. One time, a lot of drinks is way worse than once a few. And research is really clear about this strategy. It's really effective. That have strong reasons to quit, and most often these are health conditions. On the other side, you have the gradual reduction and moderation. These are like slowing down slowly with alcohol consumption. Benefits is that you are flexible in your alcohol consumption, but also you can build skills over time and that are social skills, and you have fewer social barriers because you are still allowed to drink with friends and family, but fewer times during the week or month. The challenges are still kind of similar, but they are not equal because its risk is that you are overestimating your own control about alcohol consumption, which basically translates into you are telling yourself that, hey, I can drink one drink and suddenly you drank 5. And that's not a good idea, not a good habit. So you want to stay with your own goals. Then it's also because you are adapting to new social roles, it requires ongoing decision making. You have to outweigh the pros and cons constantly. So it is a real effective strategy, but it's just for those individuals that want to cut back but not quit immediately, and also are able, they think themselves that they are able to set goals effectively and also replace new habits or old habits with new habits that are creating a new alcohol consumption habit. So for those who are even not here to say like, hey, I want to drink less, but I want to be less hangover, which is also fine because a hangover is just horrible. And I want to give you some advice on how to mitigate these effects. And you can basically divide those in 3 rough components. One is consume food. Beforehand, during, and after. Consuming food limits the alcohol uptake, the rate of alcohol uptake, so it's slower, and also because food contains antioxidants, which basically helps the liver process alcohol and its toxic intermediate. Then we also have hydration and electrolyte levels, because alcohol dehydrates your body. So what you want to do is basically drink alcohol, but drink enough other liquids, such as water, to compensate for the water loss. And because you also pee more while drinking alcohol, you also get rid of essential electrolytes, and therefore you want to compensate those electrolytes via food or via salty drinks. And the last one is the most important one, is pacing, because pacing is just making you drink less. You drink one drink and then you don't drink a few alcoholic drinks at all. You replace them with different liquids, such as water, and then you continue with another alcohol beverage. But it's also sometimes just drinking less and giving the body the time to process alcohol and its toxic intermediate. So you will eventually drink less in, the same time, and that really prevents you from drinking too much and binge drinking. So to really get going, the first thing you really need to do if you are planning to drink less is set a clear goal, because there's one thing you want to do is to just look ahead and say, this is the goal I want to reach. And I want to feel healthier, for example, by not drinking during the weeks. And that makes you feel, more capable of coping with the day-to-day life, for example, at work. And also identify the risks, because sometimes there are Tuesday or Thursdays office drinks and you don't feel well on the Friday when you have to work. So it's a real clear example, like this is one specific day that it's kind of endangering my way of dealing with work. So when we go into the third one, look into current behavior and desired behavior. So we have to oppose them to each other. Because if you say, like, I want to change my alcohol consumption, it's really important to have a clear focus on what you currently are doing. For example, I'm drinking 5 beers when I go to the pub, and you say, like, all right, I want to drink less, so let's replace every now and then one beer with a 0.0% beer. Also involve your social circle, because drinking is a social kind of thing we do. We need to involve those around us where you drink with. You want to give them a cue like, hey, I don't want to drink as much anymore, so help me to reduce my alcohol consumption. It's really powerful. And most often, people are really, really eager to help you with it. So give it a try. And also the last one is basically also the most important, is reflect on what works for you. Because you can do a different routine. You can just adopt a new routine, but if it doesn't fit you, you're not likely to stick with it. So reflect upon what your strategies are and replace them with others. And if you fail with one strategy, don't worry. You can always start again with a new one or just retry. And that said, it's basically once again, one more time to ask you a question before we go into the Q&A. Because I'm really curious, what do you think that would be a good first step for you to reduce your alcohol consumption? Well, I see some answers in the chat, and I do think these are really valuable. And we also want to dive into the Q&A with these answers. So if we're not covered yet with questions in the question tab, or you want to add your story into question tab or formulate it into a question, feel free to do so, and I will see you in a Q&A right now.
Yeah, we will now switch to the Q&A part of this masterclass. Aaron, thank you so much for all this valuable information about alcohol and its impact. I saw there was a lot of engagement in the chat. Lots of people.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, lots of people that can also see, like, oh, I really like social drinking. How should I approach this? So without further ado, let's dive into the questions.
Perfect.
Basically, the most asked question was, what is an okay amount to drink? So even if you don't want to stop completely, 1 or 2, is that still okay?
Yeah, so let's be clear. The WHO is really clear about this statement, and it's actually factual. So no drink at all is always better than some drinks. But then you also have to realize that not drinking at all is sometimes socially like inappropriate in a certain way, or you want to drink, you want to feel that kind of sensation. then spacing over time and limiting yourself to 1 to 2 drinks is also always a good idea. But then let's say 1 or 2 drinks in a space, or for example 3 to 4 hours, you will have the benefits of being less kind of socially anxious, but you spread it over such amount of time that your body is able to process it more effectively. Yeah. So don't drink, my advice, but socially limit your drinking and pace over time.
Yeah, so basically, not like you said multiple times, like no amount of alcohol will be good for you, but if you, there are ways you can do it to do it in a better way. Okay, I'm quickly going to switch to my laptop because the iPad is not updating. So I will go to the next question, which is one by Angelique Slager, and she asked, when stopping with alcohol, how long does it take to notice the benefits?
Really good question. Really good question, Angelique. Actually, it really depends on how heavy a drinker you are, because there are two different things. You have a physical dependence and you have a mentally you're dependent on alcohol. And if you are mentally dependent on alcohol, you will just, every single time there's a reason to drink, you will have this urge to drink. So you will only, kind of collide with this social norms with yourself, like your own mental state, into these environments, and then say like, all right, so I need to drink, or I want to drink. But there is no physical demand of your body. But if you are physically dependent on alcohol, it's actually not wise to just quit, because if you do so, it can be fatal, actually, because your body is really dependent on alcohol to function. So then you have to go to a rehab clinic to really detox and really kick the booze, let's say, and just give your body the time to adapt. This is a huge difference between those two, and it's basically for everyone their own path, because it really depends on how difficult you think it is to withstand an alcohol drink during social events, or for your body, if you're really physically dependent on alcohol, you will feel it kind of straight away. So there's this gray scale, but it's actually pretty black and white. If you're physically dependent, you will feel it kind of straight away. Within a day, you will feel like withdrawal symptoms. And on the other side, it's just up to you. It's just how you want to navigate, and also be clear to set your own boundaries if you want to lessen your alcohol consumption. And there are also routines involved, for sure, because some people will just automatically drink 1 or 2 glasses of, alcohol during dinner, for example, without clear reasons. It just happened to be so.
Yeah, just out of habit.
But it's out of a habit. So it's the only reason, or you're still drinking, is just yourself and you, but it's unconscious. So become aware of what your habits are, what you do during the day, what you do during going to the pub, and then act accordingly. So it's really becoming first aware, then act.
Yeah, so what you're saying is it's not even just the physical elements, but also just the habits that you've adopted and the things you associate with drinking that are actually the effects that last
those are the most
longer.
Difficult ones. And if you're addicted in a certain way, if you really like the sensation of alcohol use, basically you are addicted for life in a certain way, because you are eager to search for this sensation. So it's a tough conversation to have with people, but it's an honest conversation.
Okay, then we're going to move into the next question, and it's from Peter. He says, "Are you still drinking while knowing all of this?" It's a personal one.
It's a really good one, because I'm like an angel in a certain way, because I don't drink already for like 5-6 years maybe.
Right answer for me.
Yeah, but that's also because I'm a former athlete. So and I didn't drink that much during my whole life, because I was always competing in sports. So just being an athlete and drinking is not going very well together. So for me, it's just not. It didn't become a social norm for myself. It also didn't become a habit. When I did drink, actually during my student life, I did drink, but I was just playing around, kind of. Thinking, hey, what is this substance and what does it do? And I just drank too much, for sure. But also, it was just to, know its effects, and also get an understanding, and also say like, hey, what can it, add to my life? and I decided it doesn't add anything except hangovers. So I don't like hangovers. So that's also the main reason I like my body to be healthy, and I still train too much to say like, hey, I can drink alcohol, but there are some reasons for me still to drink, although I most often don't, but because also there are good 0.0% options at the moment. But let's say 4 or 5 years ago, they weren't there yet, and I did drink on occasions, but limited, like 1 drink or maybe 2 drinks, and then once in a quarter or something.
Very acceptable answer. Would be
but
weird if
it's
you're
a real honest one. So thank you so much for the question. It's but don't like see me as an example, like leading by example for sure, but not as an example for you, because it could be totally different for you guys. If you just want to be in festivities and you want into certain social circumstances where you just like to drink, just do, but consciously.
In moderation.
In moderation as well. Yeah.
Okay, in that light, we're going into the next question from Francisco, who says, is any alcoholic drink considered worse than others? So maybe if you're trying to lower the amount of alcohol you drink, like what are ways to do that?
Well, I need to explain something about the standard measurement of alcohol, because actually you drink different... Well, if you drink alcohol, you have different types of glasses. So if you've got like higher percentage alcohol is put in like shots or like whiskey, but you drink less volume.
Yeah, it's lower.
So it's a very low volume. Beer, for example, is lower in percentage, but there's like a bigger volume, the standard unit. Actually, if you just look at the factual amount of alcohol in those drinks, and compared to glasses, the real glasses where you should put them in, it's the same amount of alcohol, roughly. Not that much different. So if you drink a whiskey, it's actually the same if you drink 1 beer. And it's the same if you drink 1 wine. But it's really hard to pour the exact amount. So if you have a whiskey, you tend to overshoot a little. Yeah. If you are drinking a beer, it's actually 250 milliliters.
That's a can, right?
That's less. It's less than a can actually. But it's like this small beer, glass of beer, which actually in a can or in a bottle, it's way more. So you already drink more than 1 standard unit.
Yeah, that's like 0.333, I think, right? Yeah.
So you drink 1.5 amount, for example. It's about standard units and putting them in real life. It's really complicated. But actually, if you drink a standard unit and you just drink whiskey or beer, it's not different.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation, and also it makes sense, but you don't think about it in that way.
No. And in real life it doesn't happen. Like most of the time you just drink too much.
Yeah.
You never drink 1 standard unit. So.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the next question, which is from Henry. And he says, how much evidence is there that the historical binge drinking, for example, in teens and early 20s, can cause health issues later in life?
Oh, that's a really difficult question and a really intricate one as well. Let's put a disclaimer. I'm not the most into I have a fair understanding on this topic, but I'm not the professor or an expert on this topic. I'm not a developmental researcher or anything, but it has to do with also habits. Habit formation is something you create over time, and also the perception of a occurrence of a social event, for example. So if you have a positive relation with binge drinking, you're more prone to do it again. And if there are more social circumstances, you can do more binge drinking, and you have a positive relation to it, you are prone to do it more and more often. And then eventually you're binge drinking too many times. So binge drinking itself is worse because it's just toxic, really toxic for the body. But if it happens just once a year, and it just happens, so it's just bad for that one instance, but it doesn't really turn over into a bad habit formation per se. It has to do with addressing certain positive aspects to it and then you are more prone to continue. And then the developmental part, like the brain in itself, your brain is like really consuming a lot of energy, and alcohol in itself is kind of like an energy source. So it consumes alcohol more easily than other like tissues, and therefore it has more damage to it as well. And if you have more damage, you have lost more lasting effect. So if you drink, for example, as a mother and you're giving birth, or you're carrying a child with you, there is a greater chance of a higher risk of fetal alcohol syndrome. And that has like developmental problems, like mentally, but also physically. And that goes on to the age of 25 to 27. So actually drinking, if we would set an age limit, it would be start drinking after 25 or 27. But I do think like as of an age of 18, 21, it's pretty good advice. So the government is doing a good job in a certain way, because then you had your most development already, your brain and physically, and then the last bit is kind of it's the last few percentages of full developing your full potential. But if you harm those last few percentages, less worse. But that's why we have regulations also. I don't know if this is really answering your question, by the way, but this would be my take on this question.
Because what you're saying is also interesting, where also the habits part, where in your teens and your 20s, when you're with students and everyone around you is drinking. But also, for instance, I personally noticed that my friends from university that I used to do that a lot with, if I see them again, then I also think about, like I have an association with them and partying and alcohol, for instance. But
and also people that are like, there are multiple researches on this topic as well, that if people have less negative associations with alcohol, they are also more prone to drink more later in life. That's super easy, because if you have only positive affirmations with alcohol, you start to drink more until a level that you're maybe now physically or mentally, kind of addicted or adhere that, like you have to do this, and then it's part of your routine, your daily life, and then it's a different story. Then I would always advise you to go to a medical professional.
To find professional help. Okay, then we're going to move on to the next question, which is from Lotte, and she says, what's the effect of consuming alcohol when you're trying to lose weight? So in relation to dieting.
Actually, you can approach this question from two angles. In a certain way, alcohol has from a calorie perspective, has more calories than sugar, but less than fat.
Okay.
So if we put that in numbers, sugar contains 4 kilocalories, for example. Alcohol, 7 kilocalories. And then we have fat is 9 kilocalories. So basically, if you drink a lot, you get more, you just gain more calories. So from a weight losing perspective, alcohol is worse than just eating your carbs, which might be confusing for some people. But actually, it's not a good approach to lose weight. In other ways, you can say like, all right, alcohol is processed less effectively, and therefore it might be you start eating less because you're hangover. You might be less eager to eat. Yeah, for sure, you get less calories, but that's also because it's unhealthy, because you damage your body, and therefore your body's like, get the toxins out. You know the hangover aspects of this, and this is basically what happens. So what we see more often nowadays is that people are just limiting food consumption during the week to compensate with drinking during the weekend, to maintain a normal, a desired body composition. And we also call those people skinny fat people sometimes, because they lack muscles, for example, but have enough fat reserve. But it's not a healthy thing to do, because you need a certain amount of muscles as well, and you're wasting muscles in this approach. So if you want to lose weight, stop drinking. You will have immediate effects, because you won't compensate. Maybe if you drink sugary drinks, but most of the time you can't compensate for those. If you don't drink one evening, you didn't eat like 3 to 4 slices of bread with something on it. So it's just eating less.
Yeah. So the answer is quite clear. Like if you're trying to lose weight, cut the alcohol.
Yeah, cut the alcohol. It's most of the time the advice versus the social thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, then we're going to go into the next question, which is from Micha, who says, they say if you quit smoking before your 35th year of age, your lungs will be able to recover.
Yeah.
How is that with drinking? Will your organs be able to recover if you quit or moderate it in time?
Our body is a miracle machine. It can deal with so much stuff, but it needs like recovery time to do so. So if you drink or smoke for long periods of time, it will just do damage for that period of time. But when you quit, your body is always able to kind of reclaim some lost health, but not fully. Also with the lungs, for example, lung tissue is really well known because of smoking. You will have the quite new lungs actually. Your lungs can recover quite well, but the damage done to your cardiovascular system is less. You're less able to recover fully from it. This is the same story for alcohol. There are some organs that can fully recover, but the liver, for example, if the liver is damaged too much, there will never be a fully complete, like, healthy liver again. So it really depends on you personally, how your body is basically the current status, and if you just stop, which systems are able to recover well and some aren't, and that just the reality. But so once again, the honest opinion of every medical professional would be, don't drink, but if you do, just limit, and therefore the health risks and the damage you do to your organs and to your health system are just fairly limited.
Yeah, that's good. Just the fewer you drink, the fewer the health consequences.
So it can reclaim some lost health.
That's good, and also positive for people to hear.
Always, So always, with everything you think like it's not healthy for yourself, don't do it again, and it will. Well, you will feel you're getting results and health. Results.
I like that your body is a magic machine that recovers everything. We're going on to the last question already, which is from Denisa. She says, I often struggle to find in menus something healthier to drink. All the drinks have sugar, which is also harmful for the body. What do you usually choose in a restaurant? What's your drink of choice?
My drink of choice, really good one. Most of how do you got my God, I don't know this in English, but sparkling water. Yeah, there we go. Sparkling water. For me, why? Because eventually, if you drink only water gets boring, and then eventually the sparkliness of the water gets like, this is your moment. Like some are more gassy, some are less gassy, and that change is nice, but that's not an answer most people want to hear. But I also sometimes just drink a 0.0%, which is fairly limited because I prefer other drinks, but for sure, sometimes the soda, it can also be the 0.0% soda, for example, but I will opt most of the time for, in a restaurant, definitely, sparkling water with a slice of lemon, because I just... the lemon, it's just the thing. Yeah, that makes the magic happen with me in a restaurant.
The flavor,
the flavor is really nice.
I think you can also buy like flavored sparkling water now in the supermarkets. They give lots of different types.
So it really depends on your own choice. But 0.0% sodas are a really good alternative. Or 0% alcohol beverage as well. Why not?
It's easier to swap maybe if you're in a bar.
And some people say it doesn't taste as well. Then you just have to find another drink. Sorry.
Easy as that.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you so much, Aaron. We're already at the end of this masterclass. Everyone at home, thank you so much for participating and for watching. We hope we inspired you to at least start a little bit with drinking less maybe, or swapping out 1 glass of alcohol for a 0.0. Thanks, everyone, and we wish you a very happy rest of your day.
Thank you so much.